The letter shook in her hands as the train slowed into the station, its iron wheels screaming like they knew what waited for her at the end of this journey. Every word on the thin, creased paper felt heavier than the suitcase at her feet. She had crossed an ocean because no one had chosen her where she came from. Now she was arriving in a place where she believed she would finally disappear for good. The mail-order bride who thought no one wanted her had come prepared for rejection, for loneliness, for silence. What she was not prepared for was the smallest voice in the room that would undo years of believing she was unlovable. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people least expect them, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still waiting to heal. Her name was Eliza Harper, and for most of her life she had learned how to make herself small. Small expectations, small dreams, small hopes that would not hurt too much when they broke. Growing up in a town that seemed to shrink with every passing year, she was the girl people forgot to invite, the woman men politely overlooked. Her mother's illness had taken up her youth, and by the time the house fell quiet forever, Eliza found herself alone at 34 with no family, no savings, and a sense that time had quietly slipped past her while she was busy surviving. When she answered the advertisement, it was not romance she was seeking, but stability, a place to belong, a reason to wake up without the ache of being unwanted. The man who arranged the match lived in a wide, rural stretch of land where the sky seemed larger than anywhere she had ever known. His letters had been respectful, careful, almost formal, speaking of companionship rather than love, of shared responsibilities rather than passion. Eliza told herself, this was enough. Love was a luxury she had never learned to expect. Still, as the train doors opened and cold air rushed in, her heart beat like it was bracing for a verdict. The house stood at the edge of town, solid and quiet, surrounded by fields that rolled on until they met the horizon. Inside, everything smelled faintly of soap and wood, like someone trying very hard to keep life orderly. The man was kind in a distant way, his politeness sharp with nerves, his expectations unclear but heavy. He explained routines, rules, and responsibilities, and Eliza nodded, folding herself neatly into the space he offered. She unpacked her few belongings into a spare room that felt more like a waiting area than a home. Nights were the hardest. The silence pressed against her ears, reminding her that she was a solution to a problem, not a dream come true. What Eliza did not expect was the child. A little girl, no older than 6, lived in the house too, a quiet presence with observant eyes and careful movements. She watched Eliza from doorways and corners, as if studying whether this new woman would stay or vanish like others before. The girl had known loss early, a mother gone too soon, a father struggling to balance grief and responsibility. Eliza saw herself reflected in the child's cautious posture and understood without words the weight of loving someone who might leave. Days passed with polite interactions and unspoken boundaries. Eliza cooked, cleaned, learned the rhythms of a household that did not yet feel like hers. The man remained distant but not unkind, weighed down by his own disappointments. It became clear that this arrangement was faltering before it had truly begun. There was no cruelty, only a growing realization that something essential was missing, something neither of them knew how to create. Eliza prepared herself for another quiet ending. She told herself she had expected this all along. The little girl, however, did not withdraw. She lingered near. Eliza in the kitchen, handed her small tasks, followed her through the garden. There was a hunger in her attention that Eliza recognized instantly, a longing not for perfection, but for presence. Eliza began telling her stories while they worked, simple tales woven from memories and imagination, stories of brave girls who found homes in unexpected places. The child listened with a seriousness that made Eliza's chest ache. One afternoon, as sunlight spilled across the wooden floor and dust motes danced in the air, something shifted. Eliza was folding laundry, already rehearsing the conversation where she would be told this was not working, that she should prepare to leave. The little girl stood close, her small hands twisting nervously, her gaze fixed on Eliza's face. In a moment so quiet it felt suspended in time, the child leaned forward and whispered a question that was barely louder than a breath. In that instant, Eliza felt something inside her crack open, a place she had sealed long ago to protect herself from hope. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of every unanswered prayer Eliza had ever held. She did not answer right away. She could not. Tears burned behind her eyes, and she focused on folding a shirt so her hands would not shake. No one had ever asked her for something so precious. No one had ever looked at her as if she were the answer, rather than the question. From that moment, everything changed, though not all at once. The man noticed the difference first in his daughter, how she laughed more easily, how she sought Eliza's presence instinctively. He watched as Eliza learned the language of small joys, of scraped knees and bedtime routines, of listening without judgment. The house softened around them, corners warming with shared moments. Eliza found herself staying up late to mend clothes, humming tunes her mother used to sing, realizing she was building something without meaning to. Yet fear lingered. Eliza knew she was not legally bound to this life, that her place was fragile. She wrestled with the idea that she might be asked to leave, that loving this child could cost her more than she could bear. Still, she showed up every day, choosing courage over caution, presence over protection. The man, too, wrestled with his own doubts, torn between the original purpose of the arrangement and the unexpected gift unfolding before him. The turning point came quietly, without drama. A simple evening meal, shared laughter, the realization that the house no longer felt empty. The man acknowledged, in his own halting way, that what he had sought was not a wife shaped by expectation but a partner shaped by care. Eliza listened, her heart pounding, unsure whether to believe in outcomes kinder than she had known. There was no grand declaration, only a mutual understanding that family could be formed in ways neither of them had planned. As weeks turned into months, Eliza stopped counting the days until she might leave. She planted flowers in the garden, watched them take root, and understood the symbolism without needing to name it. The little girl began calling her by a name that carried warmth and belonging, a title Eliza wore like a fragile crown. She learned that being wanted did not always arrive wrapped in romance. Sometimes it came as a quiet request from a child brave enough to hope again. Just before the story reaches its ending, take a moment to comment below and tell us what this story made you feel, or who it reminded you of. Your words matter more than you know. Eliza often thought about the woman she had been on the train, clutching a letter and bracing for disappointment. She wished she could tell her that life was not finished offering surprises, that worth was not determined by how loudly it was acknowledged. She learned that love could begin not with fireworks but with a whisper, not with certainty but with choice. The house at the edge of town became a home not because it was promised, but because it was earned through patience and care. Near the end of the year, as snow blanketed the fields and the world felt hushed and new, Eliza stood at the window watching the little girl play outside, her laughter cutting through the cold air. The man joined her, not as an obligation but as a companion. Eliza felt a peace she had never known, a sense that she was exactly where she was meant to be. She was no longer the woman no one wanted. She was the woman someone had chosen with their whole heart. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe a little more in unexpected love and second chances, please like this video, share it, and leave a heartfelt comment. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and reaching those who need them most. Eliza's journey did not end with perfection, but with belonging. And sometimes, that is the greatest ending of all.